Welcome to the Expert Series brought to you by the Lupus Foundation of America. Our health education team is here to bring you experts in lupus to discuss topics to help you live better. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. My name is Lauren, and I'll be your host. I am very excited today to welcome Wendy Rodgers, Senior Manager, Community Outreach and Engagement with the Lupus Foundation of America and Lupus Warrior. She'll be sharing her experience with lupus nephritis and the resources that she found helpful along the way. Wendy has been living with lupus for 21 years and has had quite a journey. Without a doubt, you will be inspired by her story and hopefully will find the resources that we share helpful as you continue to live well with lupus nephritis. So thank you, Wendy, for joining us today.
Thank you, Lauren, for having me. I'm so happy to connect with you and our lupus community.
Yes, I'm so thrilled to have you. It's been a really great spring with a lot of updates on the lupus nephritis front. And so what we really wanted to do today is have you speak about your experience with lupus nephritis and really empower everyone out there to be experts of their own experience and what, their own bodies. And I hope your story today can inspire a lot of folks. So what most people probably don't know is that we work very closely together here at the Lupus Foundation of America, and I have to say I'm inspired by you all the time. When we create resources and educational material for people with lupus, we really do consider the people that are living with lupus as experts of their own bodies and of their own needs. And so our resources are based on direct feedback from what we hear from the community, whether that be from our support groups, our programs, or the inquiries that are received by health education specialists, and also from you, because you know what your experience has been and you share that. So I'm grateful that you're willing to share a bit more today and talk about the resources that have made it easier to manage the disease. So to start, Wendy, can you tell us a little bit about your journey with lupus? When were you diagnosed, and were you immediately diagnosed with lupus nephritis, or did that take a while?
Well, as you mentioned, I was diagnosed a little over 20 years ago. I was diagnosed officially in 2000, even though I know now I've been living with lupus much longer. I started having symptoms of lupus, most of the common symptoms such as fatigue, joint pain, and then symptoms started being added on. And one of the things I did notice among my first symptoms was swelling in my ankles. And, I didn't know what this was. I didn't know why this was. And it was pretty much something that kind of came with the beginning diagnosis. But unfortunately, nephritis was not something that was determined when I first got the initial diagnosis of lupus. But looking back, once I was diagnosed, I actually realized I was having nephritis symptoms, but didn't know what that was. So I initially got the diagnosis of lupus, and after we went through lab tests, I had a kidney biopsy, which determined that lupus had indeed affected my kidneys. And so what was not known to me was I was actually having lupus nephritis issues probably prior to my official diagnosis. And so the journey kind of started from there with lupus nephritis. Unfortunately for me, my lupus flare was pretty aggressive, and I ended up actually being hospitalized and treated. And one of the things that had to be treated right away was my kidney. I did have kidney failure, and for me, I started a journey with chemotherapy to try to treat my kidney issues. And so that's kind of where everything started. And just to back up a little bit, once I got the diagnosis, the lab tests were done to determine how severely or how active the lupus was. And it was noticed right away that I actually had proteinuria, which meant that my kidneys were leaking protein. And at that time, it wasn't considered significant, but for me, it was a weight to actually see a nephrologist. As you know, we work with a rheumatologist. And when the doctor noticed that my kidneys were leaking protein, I was referred to the kidney specialist. And this is kind of where the whole discussion began about lupus nephritis, what should be done, and, moving on from there.
Thank you for sharing that. There are a lot of other stories, a lot of other journeys out there. But kidney problems affect, upwards of 60% of people with lupus. So I think it's something that a lot of people out there can relate to. And so when you were diagnosed with lupus and then lupus nephritis early on, what were you feeling and what were some of the first thing that you went to?
Well, Lauren, I have to say, with the diagnosis of lupus nephritis, it was somewhat surprising to me because prior to being diagnosed with lupus, I was having pain and fatigue, and it was noticeable to me that there was a change in my health. When it came to the issue of nephritis, I wasn't really aware of it because with kidney issues, you don't always feel pain, or you might not really notice the symptoms of issues with kidneys. And so I wasn't really aware that this could be an issue. There was no indicator that, my kidneys were having trouble. So it was kind of surprising to me to know that, this organ was affected by lupus, because everything else I could kind of tell something wasn't right. And so for me, some of the things I started seeking out, I of course got on the web and started looking around trying to find resources. And at that time, there wasn't really a lot of information on lupus nephritis. And so I actually found an organization near me that specialized in educating people with kidney disease who were living with kidney disease. And so I started learning information there. I was able to connect with some other individuals in my community because I didn't know anyone else that had lupus nephritis. And so it was kind of isolating to me, and I honestly didn't want to really talk about it once I realized it was pretty serious. And so that was very helpful for me to, learn some of the basics of managing kidney disease.
Yeah, I think what you shared is really interesting, and probably a lot of other people have the same feeling that maybe you weren't ready to just talk about it with a lot of people, and so you were kind of getting your information, learning about the self-management for lupus nephritis, but also maybe looking for other people who had a similar experience. We have a couple of resources at the foundation, and I find that they are really active, because some of the best things for people with lupus and lupus nephritis is connecting with other people who understand the ups and downs.
Definitely. And I do want to touch on some of the LFA resources that I was able to add to my toolbox. As you know now, we have a great network of health educator specialists. At the time that I was going through the initial diagnosis of lupus nephritis, like I said, I didn't really want to connect with people and talk to, someone just openly about living with kidney disease. I just felt like it wasn't the type of issue where I could take a medication and it would be okay. I ended up having to do dialysis due to the aggressiveness of my kidney disease. And so it was a pretty serious journey for me. And it was actually like a whole nother world that I had to learn. I had just learned about lupus, and I was pretty much still in the learning process of what lupus was, what do I need to do to manage it, what type of doctors, and building my team. And then here comes, this kidney issue, and it was a whole nother set of things I needed to learn. It was almost like a separate world in a way, because there was a lot of information. Like I had to learn how to eat, to do dialysis, how to work with a nephrologist, things of that nature. So it was pretty overwhelming for me at first, but I was really helped by the information that I did receive from the Lupus Foundation of America. And I didn't know that, the kidneys were an organ that could definitely be affected by lupus. I definitely knew the joint pain, I knew about the fatigue, I knew about the skin, but I was not aware that our kidneys could be impacted so so detrimentally, I can say, or just so that it was likely. I almost thought of it as something that was kind of rare, even though I knew every organ is game. I didn't think that it would be such a life changing experience. So when I saw that and I learned about that, it kind of settled me a little bit and
Mm.
helped me kind of come up with a plan of how to journey with this particular issue with lupus.
So really the understanding of what specific kidney organ involvement looked like and what the treatment options
Mhm.
were and just how you're going to attack it and just kind of looking at that as an isolated, okay, I got to take hold of kidney disease now.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
then the
and at the
dialysis.
time, exactly. And like I said, at the time when this happened to me, I had joined a support group, but there was no one in the support group, and there was no one around my local area because that I had met or knew that had issues like me with the kidneys. And
Mm.
even with that, when I did meet people in the community, a lot of times they were older than me, and so I didn't feel as open or as comfortable with trying to talk to people about it. In fact, for a while, I kept it pretty quiet and just kind of went through the treatment and, getting my treatment plan together and going through the motions of dialysis until I reached out to this particular organization. And there were people that I met. And what really was the moment that really opened me up, and I knew that I needed to do more about not only learning about lupus nephritis, but talking about it and trying to connect with others. When I went to one of the meetings and people were in there laughing, because to me, lupus nephritis was no laughing matter. And I
Mm.
did learn that
Mhm.
people could have kidney disease for a bunch of different reasons, and lupus is one of them. I didn't realize, you could in a way still be happy because going to dialysis 3 times a week wasn't something that I saw as a type of treatment where I could have as much freedom as I wanted to. Like I said, it wasn't something I could take a pill and then move around doing whatever I wanted to do, or managing, my rest and stuff. I had to report 3 times a week to a dialysis unit. And so, that was pretty limiting in a certain way for me, especially as a younger person, doing that. So, as you know, people who are on dialysis are waiting for a kidney transplant. And I have to say, I built a whole nother family doing that. In the unit, I was in a small unit of about 10, with about 10 people, and we became friends in this journey. And the hope is, to get a kidney transplant. And I have to say, some people can do it, some people can't. Some people, don't want the option. They enjoy, that treatment for them. And so you're waiting, you're put on a wait list for a kidney transplant, and there's a lot of testing and factors that are involved. While you're on dialysis, you can get the workup of seeing if you're eligible, if you are healthy enough. You have to really take care of yourself. And for me, thankfully, after 9 years of dialysis and getting stronger and having my kidney disease and my lupus managed, I was able to get transplanted, and that was 13 years ago. I was transplanted in
Wow.
2009, and it was a life changing experience. It was actually probably the one of the most surreal experiences of my life, and I feel very fortunate to have that transplant because it's allowed me to basically come back to life do what I'm doing now. I was teaching before, and now I'm working with the lupus community through the Lupus Foundation of America. And so I just can't believe how this experience has changed my life, and that was even 13 years ago.
Well, I have to say, your experience and everything that you've been through, for everyone out there listening, this is why we're so excited to have you as a team and working with Care and Support Services, because your experience is one that people need to hear about. And so it really can help to inform the resources that we put out there. And
Yes.
as you mentioned before, we've grown throughout the years, and it's 13 years ago when you got your transplant, and many years before that when you were first diagnosed. And we've gotten a lot more resources out there. So we have articles and expert information on the National Resource Center on Lupus on our website. We have 2 other episodes of this expert series on kidneys, and I hope that we continue to grow our resources so that we can just get better and better and offer more and more information and hope to people who have found themselves in your shoes.
Yes, Lauren, and I have to say, I really want to touch on this. When I received the diagnosis of lupus nephritis, there wasn't much that could be put in my hands. And now to see how this organization has definitely developed resources where they're now at our fingertips, I want to encourage everybody to take the time and use the National Resource Center on Lupus, to contact a health educator specialist and talk to them, and not be, alone or quiet about it. I remember when I was looking for resources, I was just kind of out in the open, Googling and looking around, and it wasn't an organized space. So I would get education here or information here, information there. And as we know, not all education is correct or credible information. Mm-hmm. And so to have this type of information housed in a place that has been carefully thought out, carefully researched, and is credible is just amazing. I'm so excited to see that now, and even to see the progress that has been made, to see that we actually have 2 new lupus medications approved for treatment of lupus nephritis. Mm-hmm. I'm over the moon about that. And so, I just am really happy for the progress that the Lupus Foundation of America has made. And as things develop, just thinking of ways to make the information more accessible to the community has been so helpful. Even though I'm transplanted, I still have lupus, and I still need to manage it. I still need to, make sure I'm doing and I'm well educated on it, because this disease does evolve. Having the information at my fingertips in this resource has just been a beautiful thing. And I'm so fortunate and so grateful to even be a part of the work of this organization and doing stuff like this for the community.
Oh, Wendy, I think you and I could gush for a while about how how grateful we are for the opportunity to do this work. I think there is a lot to be said about serving folks with accurate health education. And I think you're absolutely right. If anyone out there is feeling like you were feeling and you're looking for information and maybe you're just overwhelmed, if you can reach out to a health education specialist and let us know. It helps to inform what we put out, and it helps to inform which experts that we seek out to get updates from. So it will continue to better the resources that we will put out for everyone. You have shared with us so many great details of how you came to find out you had lupus and lupus nephritis. What advice do you have for those who, like you, are navigating their journey with lupus nephritis?
Well, I have to say before and really during, use the resources that we have at lupus.org. Use the resource center. Start doing your homework in a way. And learn the symptoms of lupus. If you think you have lupus, we have a great questionnaire called Could It Be Lupus? And start, your own personal research and talk to your doctor. As I mentioned with nephritis, you don't always have some type of indicator. You can have foamy urine. You will see swelling in your extremities, especially like your feet and ankles. Those are indicators that you could have kidney issues. And so if you're noticing that, please, put it on your radar and talk to your doctor, number one. If you do find yourself impacted with lupus nephritis, know the plan of caring for your kidney. You do need to be partnered not only with a rheumatologist, but a nephrologist. When you have kidney issues, there's certain things you have to keep in mind. You have to really, in a way, I learned, like, know your numbers. So there's key things like your phosphorus, your potassium, monitoring your fluid intake. And so knowing that information is important for living a quality life. And so, coming up with a plan, just like you would with lupus for the treatment, you have to do that with lupus nephritis. Taking medications on a schedule is important. Don't skip doses. Take it properly. If you're having issues with medications, let your doctor know so that things can be treated. And I know diet comes up a lot. There's not a specific lupus diet. However, when your kidneys are involved, there is a renal diet plan that can be utilized, and that's important to follow. And of course, research and know your treatment options. Not everyone will be like me where you end up having to do dialysis, but it's still just as important to care for your kidney and know your treatment options, the medications that are out there for lupus nephritis, and things you have to do to manage it and protect your kidney. I'm so excited to see these two new medications, and really cheer the work on so that people don't have to end up in a dialysis chair like I did because my lupus was so aggressive, and that there's treatments out there to prevent that type of stuff if possible. So, just stay informed. I can't say it enough.
Well, those are awesome tips. And for those of you listening and wanting to know exactly what treatments she's talking about, you can check out our website at lupus.org, and you can see research news at lupus.org/news. You can find a list of the treatments for lupus at lupus.org/treatments. So thank you so much, Wendy, for your time today. And for those of you listening in, you can find more information about lupus nephritis on the National Resource Center on Lupus by visiting lupus.org/resources. And for more information about how lupus affects the kidneys, the latest in lupus nephritis treatment, and how to communicate with your doctor about new treatments, we invite you to join our upcoming live webinar, Lupus and You, Answers, Advocacy, Action, on March 30th from 7 to 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There will also be an opportunity for attendees to ask our presenters questions during a live Q&A panel. Additionally, celebrity Ernestine Shepard, the world's oldest female bodybuilder, will be joining us for a motivational moment and to take audience questions. You do not want to miss this. The event is free, and you can register for it at lupus.org/lupusandYou. For the latest information on lupus and COVID-19, please visit lupus.org/coronavirus. To listen to additional episodes of the Expert Series, including episodes about lupus and the kidneys, please visit lupus.org/the Expert Series, where you can also subscribe to get alerts when new episodes are released. And if you'd like to speak with one of the health education specialists, you can go to lupus.org/health educator or call 1-800-558-0121, extension 136. And finally, to connect with others with lupus from all over the world, I invite you to check out our online support community, Lupus Connect, where you can talk with others, find emotional support, and discuss practical insights for coping with the daily challenges of lupus. You can find the community at lupus.org/lupusconnect. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.